Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Gina Crosheck joining us here. Excited to have our friends from PrismsScape Gems and Healing Center, based out of Iowa City, Iowa, and joining us again here live today on the show. Excited to talk more about all the healing and, of course, associated with the holidays. We're going to talk a little bit about gifting and receiving, and just great to have someone here who is helping so many. And I know you love helping people with so many different topics to help solve their personal challenges in a sense, right? From crystals to healing, Reiki, you do it all. Let me have you introduce yourself, please, and send my love to George as well.
Okay, I will. So I'm Gina Crosheck. I'm one of the owners of PrismsScape Gems and Healing Center in Iowa City, Iowa, and we are a metaphysical store. We are spiritual. I'm thinking that we might want to start saying we're more spiritual rather than using metaphysical. But we also offer a lot of beautiful crystals and different kinds in all forms, and many of them are very healing crystals. And so they open people to new awareness and consciousness. And we also have a group of healers here, alternative healers, who do a variety of things, including massage and kinesiology and like you were saying, Reiki, past life regression. So on Saturday, I'm actually going to do a 7 life past life regression, which is going to be quite remarkable. So
Wow, what is that exactly? I'm not familiar with that. Sorry.
So the type of past life regression I do is a deep meditation, and then people go from one lifetime to another lifetime to another lifetime, and with me guiding them. I'm a facilitator in terms of people finding the lives that are most relevant to what's now. And I've done this once, other than when I was doing my training. Uh, and it was absolutely fascinating. One of the lives that the young woman had lived was as a tree. And she had been a seed, and she felt herself grow and become this magnificent oak tree. So it's one of those things where you never know. Other people have found sources of anger and things like that. But so
Oh my
interesting.
goodness.
Yeah.
Interesting is right. Wow. Okay. And let's talk more about this, and you mentioned gifting and receiving. What in particular are we talking about here? Is it giving our energy, giving our love, giving our hearts? How would you describe it for this holiday?
Well, one of the things, because so many people are this is the time of year where the expectation is that we're going to be gifting others or we're going to be receiving gifts. But in the whole gamut of human interaction, we're gifting each other regularly. It's like every morning George makes me a beautiful breakfast. And so
Wait, every morning? Since when? How many years
every
is this?
morning every morning he comes down earlier than I come down. He makes coffee and then makes me a lovely breakfast. And yes, I am very spoiled, let me just say.
How many years has he been doing this for? This is beautiful.
Uh, Ever since we first got together, and that was back in 2004,
Wow.
2005. And so, yeah, it is pretty interesting. And today we had leftover shrimp from shrimp cocktail, and so he made shrimp and grits, and
Aw.
that was, totally interesting. But so that gifting and being able to understand that gifts come in such a different assortment. It's not just material possessions. A lot of times it's the different kinds of things that we do for each other. But one of the things that I've found in my practices is that oftentimes people find it very hard to receive or to appreciate, because a lot of times people feel like that they don't deserve it. And that's one of the things that I found, particularly with women, is that they're more than happy to give, 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 to others, but for someone to say, well, let me give you, let's do some sort of sharing, or let me just do something for you, they're going, no, no. And so that whole receiving and allowing people to gift us is something it's important for us to learn to do, because so often uh, we just want to say no, don't bother, don't bother. That's isn't that oftentimes what you hear your mother or your grandmother say in terms of
Hmm.
working with things? And so don't go out of your way just for me. No. And so it becomes really important that we learn how to do both in terms of the interaction with each other and how we work with each other.
Ah, wow. I believe in that giving, that's like the gift. It's hard. My kids are 7 and 9, so they think gifts, they think
Yeah,
presents. They don't
of
understand that
course.
something as simple as getting up early, making someone coffee, let alone breakfast. You know, sending a special note, even a text message, a phone call, those
Oh, yeah.
little things are just so priceless.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I didn't even do my Christmas cards this year. I just got them in the mail the day before Christmas, so I have to send them out. And I know it's late, but I feel like it just gives more of a personal touch to write
Yes.
a little something in it and say,
Yeah.
it's just, you're right. And I feel when you give, and it's not, you shouldn't be giving to receive at all. You give just to give, but I feel like more comes
Correct.
back. It's that you would know better. Is it like karma? You putting it out there, you're giving your energy out there and it's coming back to you?
I never thought about that. Um, I think it's just how we look at other people.
Yeah.
It's it's like there was a time when I sent out Christmas cards, and I haven't sent out Christmas cards in years, and I used to love it because I would always write a personal note, uh, and uh, I have no idea why I got out of the habit. But sending text messages, I can do that. I managed to send out text messages to different people, and those are my way of saying hello to people these days. So,
Yeah. Ah,
yeah.
what is the best gift you've ever received?
Oh, geez. Um, I've never really wondered about that. I just always think that probably the best gift I've ever received was George, in
Aw.
terms of him just being in my life and us having and George is my husband, and
Yes, for
my
those that
second
know.
husband after my first passed away. But in terms of my life and what my life is like, I would say that definitely, because we were watching this show last night called Craft in America, and you had an elderly couple. They were in their 80s, and they were making tamales for the family in San Antonio. And the woman looks up at the camera and she says, "This is what we do for Christmas. This is our togetherness." And so our being able to be together is our gift to each other.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I
Uh,
love it. What else do you want your listeners to know about the gifting and receiving in a sense when it comes to these type of spiritual and personal ways in a sense? And I like the way we're using gifting and receiving today.
yeah. So it's sort of interesting because we have so many different attitudes around the Christmas holiday, but it's really around the Christ consciousness and around uh, the time of year and this incredible energy of understanding that we really were given a gift when Christ decided to come and be present with us. In fact, in the circles of beings that we call ascended masters, Christ is called the Radiant One for coming to earth to help us understand the light of love and forgiveness and the realization of it. And so that is so that there are different proportions of gifting, And we have the personal gifting, but we also have the family gifting, and then we have the community gifting, but then also the world gifting in terms of all of beings who are on the planet at this point in time. And I think that that becomes very, very important for us to understand. I mean, there are just so many different ways for us to learn and to participate in gifting and also in receiving. And so allowing others to offer us their blessings. I remember I had a friend who um, she was non-religious and a little antagonistic to religion. And someone said to her one day, and she was a hospice nurse, and or an oncology nurse, and she said, well, I will pray for you. And she's like, you don't have permission to pray for me.
Oh,
and 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 so that whole business of refusing to receive is something that I think we want to really be conscious of. And so I, although Buddha would refuse to receive insults and attacks. And so, if he refused to receive them, then they stayed with the person who was offering them. And so it's just sort of an interesting thing to consider as we're going through our days, and this time in particular. And it is in terms of an astrological time because Capricorn is the time of bringing in the light and working with our whole communities, all of the different groups. Then it becomes important at this time for us to be conscious of such things.
oh, well, thank you for sharing that. And Gina,
Mhm.
I love this holiday edition of gifting and receiving. How do we reach out to you if someone is interested in contacting you?
Yeah. You can reach us at info@prismscape.com, PrismsScape.com. And we also have a website, which is
Mhm.
www.prismscape.com. And yes, and you can give us a call, 319-351-2907.
Beautiful. And let me ask you this. We are on the cusp of a new year and, in your world of spiritual healing and what significance does that mean for us? Is there something we should be doing this time of year? Is there cleansing? Is there, or should we be, you're big into crystals. There's different crystals we should have. How do we work into the new year and the new changes in our lives?
I think a lot of people would say, and we're coming up on a new moon, and a new moon is for setting intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but yes, there is, with the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, we are definitely going to be releasing. It's going to be one of those things where we want to be setting aside bad habits if we can. I know our niece was, not that it's necessarily a bad habit, but it can be. She said that she and her husband were going to have a dry January. And so you have that has become one of the things that people in this country would do is they would uh, do only non-alcoholic beverages and during the month of January. And so they call it dry January. But it's a good time to really reflect, and that's why it's important for people to take time to be quiet. And this is like this morning, the quiet was absolutely beautiful because we had a fog in the land around us. And so when you step out of the car or you step out of the house, the fog has dampened down all of the noises
Mm-hmm.
around and makes it quieter. And so this is an excellent time for sitting and reflecting and really looking at what has gone before and what the past year has has provided us to understand. But also, it's an excellent time to really think about what we want to create in this new year that is coming in 2025. And it's always essential that we face whatever is coming with um, without fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really important for us to understand that we create our own reality, and that's very hard to understand since we're going, I did not create this illness. Thank you very much. And and yes, that's true. But on the other hand, there have been times where we, in fact, I will say to people when they start saying negative things, it's like, stop and recast that the way you're phrasing that. So it becomes really important that we always be conscious of the words that we speak. And yes, that's why we have last week we talked about New Year's resolutions and what you do and whether or not you actually keep them or not. A lot of people start out with this sharing that they're going to lose weight. So,
Well, what is that about us? Every year you get all these people, these New Year's resolutions. A lot of it is I'm going to lose weight, going to lose weight, going to lose weight. What happens after that initial, gym membership, selling out? It's a great thing. What happens? Is it that we didn't really want to lose it to begin with, or was we losing it for someone else, or why do so many of us fail to follow through on resolutions? Just, how does that work? What do you think that is?
I think that we let ordinary life get in the way. We use excuses because I think we start to get stressed, we start to get busy, and we have one of the things that oftentimes, particularly me, is discipline. It's
Mm-hmm.
just maintaining a routine of discipline. And it's, for instance, our nephew-in-law who had we were at their house yesterday for Christmas dinner, and he had cleaned up everything. And then his wife was saying, well, are you going to the gym tomorrow? And he said, yeah, I'll go at 6:30. Well, it was 6:30 rather than 5:30. And and then he was going to go into work because he was a banker. He'd come home, get ready for work, and then go to work in one of the local banks. And so a lot of it is routine. If we set up a routine that we're able to keep and make a promise to ourselves. Because really, the only person who cares about your resolutions and whether you're breaking them or not, for the most part, is you. It's really something you're doing for, it is a gift for yourself. If you are going to
Yes.
do a resolution, it is a gift to yourself. And I certainly feel a lot better if I do something like that. George and I have one of these new step machines, and that's one of the which is excellent, but it's one of the things that we say, yes, we are going to use this so many times a week and get our steps in, right? So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I love how you circle back to the word gift, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
we're gifting ourselves and hoping to
yeah.
heal. You mentioned something though, you're saying, you mentioned something before about disease or we bring it upon us ourselves. Curious, but curious about that. Like, for example, like, my mom died of lung cancer, right?
Mhm.
And I know lung cancer could be genetic, it could be, but so many different things. But she was a very negative person, and she always would say, "I'm dying young, I'm dying young," and she died at 62. But like, I mean, is that possible by always saying that and like she, manifested that in a sense? Does that happen?
Some people would say yes. One of the things, probably at least the research studies show with the disease of cancer, because it's your body attacking itself, is that a lot of times anger has a lot to do with it.
Oh,
And
she
if
was
people
very
are
angry.
angry, then oftentimes that just the anger in the cells has impact. There's different kinds of studies on that sort of thing, but you have to very carefully navigate that whole concept that we create our own realities. But part of it is that, um, for instance, I tend to be very positive, and I
Mm-hmm.
have always been. It's just how I came out. And I think that that makes a difference so that life for me is generally always going to be positive as opposed to negative. And so, but trust me, I have my physical issues. We still have our DNA. So,
Yeah.
like, I have issues with my back, but so did my grandmother, so
Okay.
did my mother, so does my
Okay.
sister. And so it's just one of those things that my DNA just got in there and said, yeah, we're going to cause you trouble. And so, um, but yeah, we have to be really conscious, I think, of how we're looking at the world and what we're expecting from the world. If there are many people who said, why can't I just get a break? Well, because they're always tend to be focusing on the negative. Sometimes it's such a big question. We can never say one thing is the way and the other is not. So,
Well, I love the fact that brings tears to my eyes to think about the good that, can come. And, if what we want more out of life, that we really can thrive. I think we have to ask for it, but also just curious, is there anything like for the new year to help with that, boost that desire to, live and have a better year? Is there anything that you would suggest? I mean, I know you're into crystals. Is there any crystals we should be having around here for the holidays that are going to help bring us into this new change?
I would always go with some of the brighter crystals, particularly rose quartz, because rose quartz is one of the most important stones for self-love. And what we're talking about is self-love in terms of changing any kinds of habits that we have. So it's going to be essential. And also, the one that comes to mind is sunstone, because sunstone is a very dynamic stone of leadership and taking responsibility. And one of the things we have to do if we're going to make changes for ourselves is to take responsibility for what we're doing. And so that becomes very, very important. Another stone that is really quite wonderful is called selenite. And selenite is excellent because it cleans and clears. And so it helps get rid of the negative. It absorbs and transmutes the negative energy that comes forth. And smoky quartz is really good.
All right. And just curious, do you make New Year's resolutions? What is on tap for you?
Um, I generally don't make New Year's resolutions,
Ah,
but I will be working on some of the physical as well as some emotional stuff in terms of working through it and just staying happy. So if
ah,
there is one, it is just taking everything as it
yeah.
is. One of the things that years ago I would never have said, but I
Oh,
say now, is that everything's in divine order and
okay.
understanding that things are going to just unfold the
The
way they're going
way.
to unfold. And
Oh, yeah.
it's a very, that might be for another show, might be
Oh, well,
another
that's emotional.
discussion.
I'm having a bad morning, to be honest. I have we had some good news in the family. My cat had kittens, right? And we had 5 kittens 2 days ago, and then
All
last night,
right.
yeah, one wasn't doing well. We were up all night with it. It's not feeding. It's weak. We brought it to the vet this morning, and then it passed a few hours ago. So
Oh,
my boys and I have been crying all day.
I
Now,
understand.
yeah, now I feel like there's another one that's weak, and I'm trying to explain that to them. Sometimes it's just meant to be. I'm gonna cry.
It's okay. But
As hard as
sometimes
that
it
is,
is.
right? Yeah.
So,
It's part of
so
God's
this
plan.
is my understanding. So because all of us have souls, and so the souls sometimes come just for the experience, but then they say, I think I'm just going to leave. And so they leave because they have done what they came to do, and they're just are going to go back to spirit. And yeah, it is very hard,
And I'm going to keep
particularly
crying.
when they're as little as they are,
Yeah,
and even you who are big.
I know. I've been crying all night and day over it, but
Yeah, yeah,
there's a reason and there's a way, and I'm trying to explain that to my kids as I'm like bawling, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
part of life and we learn. But you're right, that soul is just not ready. It came to experience it and said, nah, I'm going back, but I'll come back another time. I
That's
said, next
correct.
time.
Yes, yes. And
Oh,
so, but yeah, but it's very grateful for the love that it received while it was here. I think that's one of the really important things
yeah,
is to understand that the soul
yeah.
can understand the love that you are creating for or offering it and
And it feels
appreciating
it,
it.
right?
Yeah. And
I wish I do
sometimes
have a
the
tissue.
body
Excuse me.
can't, the body just wasn't formed enough to be able to stay.
Yeah.
I remember when a good friend of mine passed on the operating table when he had brain cancer. And so when my friend looked in on it, she said his body was so damaged
Ah,
it could not survive. And so sometimes,
yeah.
like with something like a small kitten, the body just didn't have the strength to stay here.
No.
And it was no fault of anyone's. It just is the way they came in.
Now, I don't want to end it on the sad note, but how do you want to end our show today? But thank you as I
Yeah,
wipe my tears. Thank you, Gina.
yeah. I would just say enjoy and look forward to the new year. And so I don't know, are we doing next week? Or are we going to skip a week?
I'm on. I'm ready. I'm working. So if
Okay.
you're available, I would love to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
And
we'll do next week. And so I would just say plan for the new year.
yeah.
Take time to everyone to plan for the new year.
Well, thank you so much. And if someone
Thank
does
you.
want to reach out to you, obviously in person, you're in Iowa City, but you're online, PrismsScape.com. That's
Mhm.
PrismsScape.com. Also on social media. And do you want to share a phone number or anything else before we
Yeah.
go?
Uh, an email info at
Yes.
prismscape.com.
Well, thank you so much. Sending
Thank you.
love and light,
Mhm.
and hope you enjoy the weekend. We'll catch up next year, I guess.
Yes, we
Wow.
will.
Thank you so much, Gina. Have a
Okay,
great day,
thank you.
okay? Bye, sweetheart.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, George.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.